this is a community building event, and we think that in Canada we collectively are underperforming our potential in terms of commercializing medical devices, and so we're kind of trying to create some community momentum around people learning from each other and help foster a culture where it's normal to do startups and to launch new medical innovations.
Who's been involved in selling a company? Oh, many people here. And of those who have been involved in selling medical device company? Oh, that's great. So this should be participatory, and feel free to stop me to ask questions.
Investment. Well, yeah. My investment is as little as possible to get it to, okay, being honest here, to get it to that institutional level. We typically will fund from between a couple $100,000 all the way up to, I think, 10, 12 million. Most of our projects, once again, are north of 50 million. Our last Series A round for one of our companies was 50 million, 55 million. One of our companies were into it for 132 million. So a lot of medical things that we do anyway go into that tier. Now, having said that, our software projects, we've got 3 or 4 of those. They're nowhere near that type of investment. I got $3 or $4 million into each one of the software projects, and probably won't need to raise any more.
It's about what we're doing. We're building catheters that use ultrasound and optical technology to take pictures inside the heart, the vessels of the body, and other structures. And this is our first product. It's a catheter. It gets introduced from the leg up to the heart. It's got a deflectable tip so that you can move it amongst the different parts of the anatomy. And in fact, I can get to different parts of the heart by using this catheter without having to use x-rays.
The first time that we made the horrible mistake of, and actually, honestly, none of us knew what we were doing. We had a university person on the board of directors, and they had no experience sitting on a board of a startup, and they were also fairly timid about making the wrong decision. And it was a disaster. I mean, again, the company ended up somehow, surviving that, but I would never repeat that ever. And it's not fair for the university to put somebody on the board because they're trying to look at a set of fiducial interests that they don't even fundamentally understand what those are. So we've kind of gone away from having university folks from a fiduciary perspective on the board.
You're outside the U.S., so they don't do as many inspections there as they do in the U.S. Could be any number of things, but everyone is subject to an inspection, so it's important to be prepared for that. But then when an inspection, when FDA is looking at when they might inspect, they're going to be looking at a number of things. They do strategic planning with regard to inspections. They look at regulatory history. So within the U.S., they have district offices. The district offices have certain regions, and in those regions, they look at what their inventories are for medical device and radiological health companies. They look at the regulatory history. Have they had a previous inspection? What was the outcome? Have they ever had a warning letter? Have there been other issues? What about recalls? Have there been recalls? How many? How often? What are the nature of those? If they're higher risk recalls, then that's going to cause some concern. They're going to look at the adverse event reports that have been submitted to the MDR system, Medical Device Reporting System. They're going to evaluate those. If they have some concerns about the fact that there's a high number of MDRs, they may want to go out and do an inspection to take a look at that. So these are some of the kinds of things that cause them to get you on their radar screen for inspection.
By the way, this is I tell you, it's such a small world. I was the wonderful recipient of a couple of FDA warning letters. Guess who signed them? Larry Spears.
So how do you approach them, either the VCs or the angels? The primary rule, I would say, is make sure to get a warm introduction. A good business plan that comes in over the transom is almost always ignored. And I'm sorry that's true, but I think it's so. I think if you don't have an introduction or reference, your business plan is not likely to get a lot of attention.